Good morning. Good morning. This is April Navoa, and I'm here with Christi Benefield. And I'm so happy to have her here. She's just such a joy. So
Oh,
Christi, I've known you for, I don't know, it's been a year and a half, 2 years now. Hadn't been a really
just
long
over a
time.
year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I enjoy so much talking with you. You are just, I always go away feeling so uplifted because you're just such a happy, you just give happiness. I mean, you exude it.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh,
so, but I want to hear about who you are and where you came from, a little bit about your background. Could you go ahead and share that with us?
sure. I grew up in Georgia. My dad became a preacher when I was a teenager.
Okay.
So that was really, really hard. He was
Mm,
always he was a theologian. We always had so many books on the shelf, and he was always studying the Bible. And at a young age, I was always in the church. We had Awanas, we had all of that. But I always had that side of me. Grew up the weird kid.
mm,
I stayed in nature. I was intrigued with the opposite of what church was. Not saying I was into devil worshiping at all, no,
mhm,
but it was just to me, I felt like there was something else growing up, but I couldn't pinpoint it. So um, there was a lot of things that family dynamics that went on.
mm,
And when my dad passed away, I was like in my late 40s when my dad passed away. And it was a relief. And I know that sounds terrible, but my
yeah.
dad suffered a lot of mental and almost schizophrenic type behaviors. He
Mhm,
was bipolar manic. Um, and it was kind of like a relief that he was able to pass away and pass on to something better, because now that I look at it and all the things that my dad went through, it was a family thing. It went
mhm,
back years, and after he passed, I was able to communicate with a few of my cousins and realized that this is a family thing. So I
yeah.
felt relieved that he went on to a better life.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel terrible about his death. We cried for a little bit, but and I miss him, but I don't.
Right.
um,
Yeah.
when he died, I had somebody hand me, it was probably before he passed away. I had a friend hand me a deck of tarot cards. And I'd always been intrigued with them, but I never practiced with them. I'd been accused of it several times, but I never even handled a deck of tarot cards. I didn't know what they were. I was intrigued. So, of course, I started playing with them. And as I played with them, I was by myself. I didn't really know anybody else. Um, my husband was doing motorcycle towing. He owns his own business, and I would go with him. And we went to a shop, and it was in like Little Five Points area. It was a motorcycle shop in Little Five Points. And the girl at the desk had this beautiful pentacle necklace
Hmm,
on her neck. And I
okay.
had never seen one before. So I was intrigued, and I asked her about it. So then I did my own research on it, and I fell in love with what the pentacle represented. So
Hmm,
I purchased one for myself because I was like, this is going to be my talisman. This is going to direct me on my path. So I would wear it. And my husband and I went to go look at a house this couple was selling, and they were going to have us purchase it outright from them. And we went
mhm.
to their house and met with them. I had the necklace on, and the lady came up to me and she says, "Well, blessed be, sister." And I was like, "Excuse
What?
me?" I didn't know what that meant.
Mm,
And then I got to talking to her. She, I told her, I said, "I'm kind of new. I don't, I really felt drawn to this."
right.
And she said, "Wait till you get into the quantum of it."
Hmm.
And I didn't know what she was talking about.
Hmm.
And so it intrigued me because she said, "You're going to get into the quantum, and it's going to be a rabbit hole." And I recently, about a year and a half ago, walked through the doors of the House of Light and found my rabbit hole. I
Wow.
realized how much more there is,
Hmm.
and how much this world has to offer in healing us and letting go of all the things that we were programmed. So I was really blessed to step through the doors of the House of Light. And it totally changed my world. I
Wow.
I have people now that I guess are on the same path. I don't feel so alone. But
Mm,
there's so much more to it. I never realized. I
right.
never realized how much is there. Meeting you and everybody else has just really just, I went down the rabbit hole.
And it just keeps going. It just keeps going.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And it's great. It's great. It's great.
So what made you take the leap and become a tarot reader? What was the thing you feel like? Was it just meeting the community of people that were exploring uh,
I
things?
I think so. It was almost like a knowing, like it
Uh-huh.
was what I was supposed to do. And it's hard to explain that feeling of just knowing.
Hmm.
And then once I started realizing that, in talking to people, the knowing is a gift.
Yes.
Um, and just following that gift and knowing that you've got this, that
Right.
there's more out there, and that I could help people with it.
Mm,
Because it helped me. I would pull cards if I had a question, like when I got into real estate. It
mhm,
was scary because I was
mhm,
stepping out from helping my husband run his business and branching out to start my own. And growing up as the quiet kid, the
mm,
don't talk, keep her in her room. I was
right.
always grounded. I was never allowed to go
Oh.
anywhere. Um, so it was a
Mm,
big thing for me. So I would pull my cards
mhm,
and write about it. And when I have a hard time in real estate or just in life, I go back to that journal that I wrote, and it did tell me, my cards did spill it out. It's going to be more than just real estate. Other things are going to come out of it. And it did. It has. There's other aspects that came out of me becoming a real estate agent,
mm,
as far as I get to read tarot now. I have a clientele, and some of them are real estate agents.
mhm,
They are seeking answers as well. We're all looking for clarity in what we're doing. And I think that is why I do it,
mhm,
for clarity,
mhm,
as well as why other people come to me, because they want to know, am I going the right direction? Is there something I'm missing? And they just want that clarification. And then sometimes it doesn't come right away.
right,
It's just one of those things that's going to take them time
right,
to figure it out.
right.
So
So you would say that tarot, let's for people that don't understand what tarot is, because they see that word and they may not realize or understand what that is. Can you explain a little bit about what tarot is?
divination, it's using your intuition.
Okay.
You really don't even need the cards,
Right.
as I've been told. They're our
Yes.
tool.
Yeah.
Um, but I still like it. I still use my cards because the visualization is what people need to see. They need to physically see it. They
Okay.
feel it,
Hmm.
but to identify it with the cards laying there in front of them and see the story unfold with the cards, that gives them a visual. I think we're all visual people. We
Hmm.
have to see something happen.
Right.
So I think with tarot, it's a matter of sitting down with somebody, feeling their energy, feeling what they're bringing with them.
Hmm.
You already know what you're going to say to them, but the cards give you that outline, I guess you could say. I guess that
Right.
would be the right term of, this is what you've been going through this, and you've been going through this because this is what direction you're headed. This is what life is trying to teach you. So if you're going through this, eventually it's going to lead to this. And that's kind of how I do my card readings
Hmm.
is, you've been going through this right now. This is what you're going through. And if you keep on this path, this is where you're headed, but you can change that. You can change your course.
So it's a
So
tool for it, kind of is like affirming what you kind of already know on the inside
yeah,
is what it's
yeah,
doing. And
yeah.
I know I was the accuracy with which you did my reading was mind-boggling to me. I think we both cried. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. It was
yeah.
it was really something. And it never ceases to amaze me. We have all the answers that we
We
need on the
do.
inside of us, but these tools are fun to play with because they give you confidence. They help assure you that you're on the right track, or that maybe you're your intuition about something is accurate, or
Yeah.
or you're going in not the greatest direction. uh
Yeah.
and
A
it
repeated cycle.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes it identifies those shadow elements of ourselves in areas where we're kind of caught up in a loop, right?
Yeah.
Kind of stuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a
I see that when I read somebody's cards and I get a lot of swords. To
ah
me, that's being stuck in your own mind type situation. If I see somebody with it, when I lay cards out and it's a bunch of swords, I'm like, oh,
yeah,
you got some work to do, girlfriend.
that's right. Got to get out of
Get
that
out
loop.
your head.
Yeah, out of your
So,
head. I love
out of
that.
your head. Yeah.
So who comes to see you? What walks of life do they come from? Uh
I mean, God. Like I said, I've had realtors show up, um, firefighters, just all forms of people. I've had a therapist come in, which was really scary to me because I was kind of taken aback because I'm like, I'm sitting here with a therapist across from me and I'm telling her, so, which it was kind of mind boggling to me. But it was really cool to talk to her. Um, People that are looking for, I had one lady come in, her husband had passed away. This really touched me because her
mm,
husband came in while I was reading her tarot. He was very loud and boisterous. And sometimes I do get people that drop in that are on the other side, and he wouldn't
wow.
leave me alone till I told her what he was trying to say. And then I could resume my reading. It was the craziest reading I've ever done.
Hmm.
And she sat there and bawled her eyes out because he had recently passed. And that was kind of,
Oh,
she wanted to know if he was there with her.
right.
And I didn't ask her what her question was. I say, look, you don't have to tell me.
Hmm.
I'll figure it out and we'll make
Right.
sense of these cards. And he he really made sure I let her know he was there.
Oh.
So that was really touching.
Hmm.
It really was. But so I get all kinds of people that just if I throw a party at my house or I have people over, they're like, "Can you break your cards out?"
Mm, yeah.
Um, and it's really neat. Like I had a party and it was a bunch of girls and there was one
Hmm.
guy that was sitting at the table waiting, and all the girls kept just about getting all the same cards,
Right.
and they were all going through just about the same thing. And when I went to read his cards were totally different.
Really.
And everybody, I mean, he just sat there. He was shocked because he couldn't believe everything that I was telling him. And he was like, "Oh my God, these cards are so accurate."
Hmm.
But it was really interesting. Just people just are curious. They want to know if it's real. Do you know what you're doing? It's just a bunch of hocus pocus.
Sure.
Yeah, it is. But we know what we're saying. We do, but we don't.
Hmm.
Sometimes you don't know what you're saying to these
Yeah.
people, if it's even resonating with them or if it's going to resonate with them in a few days. And I've
Hmm.
had that happen where I've said something to somebody and they walked away going, "This didn't do anything for me." And then a few days later, they messaged me, "What you said happened. You
Right.
were absolutely on spot. I can't believe I just, that happened after you said it would."
Wow.
So that kind of, it was nerve wracking coming to the House of Light and starting to read for people when I've always just done it for myself and for kicks and giggles when I had friends over. It's
Yeah.
really intimidating to start charging people to do their tarot.
Yeah.
Um, it's really intimidating because you don't want to, you don't want to put a price on it, really, almost. But
Yeah. I mean, that's the unfortunate thing about our reality, is that we still have this energetic exchange of that's monetary. That's
yeah, yeah,
but that is energy, and there is
it
something to
is.
be said. There is something to be said about the exchange, because if there's not the exchange, there's nothing given, nothing gained. And
Right.
that's the plane that we kind of are functioning in. And it is weird. It is weird, because you're playing, you're doing something that you're enjoying, you're having fun with it, you're playing with it,
Yeah.
you're playing with energy. And then there's this, like, and I was talking to someone else about this the other day. Then there's reality. But your time
Yeah.
is worth that. And you're good
Yeah.
at it. You're really
Yeah.
good at it.
Thank you.
So typically, what are they looking, they're when they, what is like, I think the most common thing that people ask or want to know that you would say?
Am I going to find my love?
Yes.
Am I going to find love? Um, and which is a really hard thing to do, because I really try not to do love readings,
Yeah.
because that's really tricky.
Yes.
But sometimes that does come up in a reading where they're going to find love, or there's somebody that's going to show up in their life. That's one of them. Some of them are, am I going in the right direction with my job? I just got an offer. Do I need to quit and go to this?
Yeah.
But they really don't even tell me what their questions are.
Okay.
Some of them just want to say, some of them are like, I just want to know, am I missing something? Is there something the universe wants me to know and I'm just not hearing it? And that was always kind of like what my question was, because I'm like, I really don't know what to ask the cards,
Right.
because sometimes we really don't know what we truly, really want.
Right.
And that's key. You got to know
Mhm.
what you really, truly want. But
Yeah.
that's, yeah. Or, am I going to get my girlfriend back?
Oh
That's
boy.
been one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not if you're acting the way you are.
Right. Or
But
maybe it's just
yeah,
not,
that's,
it's not meant to be.
yeah.
I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
people,
Yeah.
I think a lot of times they want, well, we want the easy button and we don't want to
Yeah.
see the blessing and the struggles, or, the lessons there. And we would just prefer that everything's smooth sailing all the time. And that's not what we came here for, is it? I mean,
No,
no,
no.
no,
It's hard work.
it
You
is.
got to put in the work. You really do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, misconceptions about tarot.
Hmm.
It's a big category.
It is. It is. Coming from the background I came from, with a very Christian family, I have been accused of worshiping Satan,
Mhm.
which it's not the truth.
No.
It is not anything to do with Satan.
Right.
Absolutely not. It's the opposite spectrum, because when I do tarot readings, I'll call in my angels, my guides, ancestors. I call in help for me to read. I don't call and pray to, oh Lord, mighty Satan, to
Right.
guide me, because that's just not it.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of criticism from family members, and not, that it's wrong. Um, it's not.
Mhm.
It's no, to me, these people that read their Bible and they just open their Bible up and that's their devotion for the day. That's no different than
Same
a
thing.
tarot.
No, it's
It's
not.
the same thing.
Yeah.
It's what you need to hear for that day. So pull a card. There's nothing wrong with pulling a card and meditating on that. And because that's what you needed to hear for the day. This is what you're going to need to get through your day. Pull a card,
Mhm.
even if it's an oracle card, which is totally different than tarot, a little bit different. But I
Well,
think,
we checked the weather report, right?
yeah, how you
And
going to plan your day?
yeah, and
Yeah.
is that weatherman right all the time? No.
Mm-mm,
But,
mm-mm.
we will plan our day. Do we take an umbrella? Do we wear a coat? How about a jacket? How about a sweater? Do we put on gloves, a hat? I mean, you
In
know,
Georgia, it's all of the above.
all the above, right? Uh, but, it's, I mean, in a sense, like any kind of forecasting
Mhm.
goes on, and then you have people that call themselves prophets, right? So I don't see a huge difference. Every culture, every religion, has some form of forecasting,
Yeah,
financial advisors. This is how in the world do they know for sure that that's going to trend up or trend down? They don't
yeah,
necessarily, but oftentimes they're right because they're educated in it. And that's the same with what you're
yeah,
doing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I am wanting to branch out. I've tried doing tea leaves. That's a little complex, because I love tea.
Right.
Um, it is a lot of work. I mean, there's palm reading, which intrigues me as well.
Mhm.
I've been fascinated with that. So there's just so many different levels of divination you can use, like runes.
Mhm.
Those are really in depth and a lot to contend with. I kind of had to give up on that because it was just very time consuming. And with everything I had going on, I had to let something go.
Yeah.
You know, I was pulling my hair out.
Too many.
You can't retain anything if you've got so much going on. I can't retain.
Like
So,
having too many tabs open on your computer. It's like a bit much. It's
yes.
a bit much.
Yes.
Yeah. So
So,
what other kind of misconceptions do you think about?
um, trying to think on that.
I know you do tarot a little bit differently than some other tarot readers. I
I
noticed.
do.
Yeah.
I do. The funny thing is, when I started reading tarot, I had never had a reading done on myself. I had never had a tarot reading done on myself.
Yep.
And I was reading tarot. So
Wow.
I had never really seen a real tarot reading. So I didn't know how it went. I just did with what I knew.
Yeah.
Um, and it's really intriguing now. I'll get on YouTube or other social things and see how people are reading their cards. I've met other tarot readers that have come into the House of White and seeing how they read. And you could take a little bit from them to incorporate into yours. When I read for myself, and sometimes I do it for other people because it says do this. I can feel
Mhm.
the pull that I needed to do it. But I will pull an oracle card and then pull tarot cards to elaborate on it. And I usually do that for myself. And then, like I said, sometimes I'll be in the room with somebody and I'll just be like, I need to pull an oracle card first. We need a direction.
Mhm.
And it just totally changes. I can't just do one spread. Some people will do a 3-card spread and that's all you get. I will just keep pulling cards till it says stop,
Right.
till I come to a card and it's like, no more. And
Yes.
and I stop. And then sometimes I'll be talking and we'll finish up and wrap up with what we're seeing. And I'm like, one more. We're gonna just do one more,
Mhm.
um,
Yes.
it's just really interesting to be pulling cards and just have the answers. And then sometimes it'll totally change direction
Hmm.
when you're reading. And I'll have to just keep pulling cards till I finally see the story. And sometimes that scares people, especially when you're pulling the devil card, the death card, and the tower card, and they're like, oh gosh.
Those are, that is, I think that could probably be misconceived as something different than what it is. Can you explain a little bit about those cards you mentioned? Because, I think people hear those words and, the hair starts to stand up on the back of your neck
They do.
when
They
you're
do. They
not
see those
familiar.
cards drop and they're like, ooh. The devil card is nothing ugly. It is basically, for me, when I pull the devil card for somebody, it is a form of bondage. They are bound down by something that they need to let
Mhm.
go.
Ah,
That I think they've got a side of them that they need to bring to the light.
okay.
Is nothing bad. The death card, when I pull it, for me is just death to something that you don't need in your life. So if you get the devil card and the death card, you're making progress. And the tower is a crumbling of that, is everything that you thought was real is crumbling before you, and you're about to start um something new.
Yes.
So everything that you've known is going to crumble right before your eyes. And usually, if those 3 cards are in there, the Fool is in there somewhere. And that just tells me you're about to start on something really fantastic. Go with your gut, rock what you're doing. Things are about to change. Your world is about to get shook.
So
And
tarot works in symbolism. It's not literal. And I think
right,
that's the major misconception. A major misconception about it, I think, and in
true.
my mind, is people tend to look at it in terms of literal, but they don't understand that anything
Yeah.
spiritual and mystical operates in archetypes and symbolism. And I think that's
Yes.
that's what's really difficult for people that are literalists to wrap their head around.
That's perfect. I love that. I love that. That is a good misconception. Yes, that's
Yes.
perfect. Yeah. The symbolism is exactly what that is.
I
Yes.
think there's so much weight in looking at things in a literal way, when
Yes.
what we really are spiritual beings having a physical experience. So would it not make more sense if of course you ascribe to that belief, to look at things in that way? But we live in this 3D existence, and
Yeah.
so you see the death card and you go, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die, like, I mean, it doesn't
Who's
necessarily.
dying?
I know. So I think
Your
that's,
ego.
well, right, exactly. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
big change is
Yeah.
coming. That's not a bad
Yeah.
thing. Change is important, you know.
Yeah.
That's how we
Yeah.
grow and evolve into whom we're supposed to be, or I should say return to who we are, because I really believe we come in kind of together and then we get disassembled. you
Yes.
know
Yes. And it's painful at times.
it
Yeah.
is. So
Yeah.
tarot is one tool, among many that we can use to kind of return,
Yeah.
to who we are, to recognize patterns and places in ourselves that need to shift and to grow. So
Yeah.
it's a beautiful gift, and it's a lot of fun to play with too. So it's not what
It
people
is
think.
fun.
Yeah.
And it's addicting. Tarot cards they have beautiful artwork.
Hmm.
Um, Finding a really good tarot deck that has great artwork, that you can actually read. There are some decks that I bought because, like, I bought the Nightmare Before Christmas deck. I love Tim
Really?
Burton.
Oh yeah.
And I found the Nightmare Before Christmas deck, and it was based on the Rider Waite, which is my favorite deck to use. It's very simple. The symbolism is very easy. And that's the deck I use to read to other people,
Hmm.
because it's easy and quick for me. So I was like, oh, I got to have this deck. It is so cool. I got it. And I worked with it a couple of times, but it was just, I never picked it back up. I just
Hmm.
continued, and I had bought another deck, which is really confounding to me. It's very black and white.
Hmm.
And I was started working with that. And I had a friend that called me, and she was wanting to learn to read tarot. And she bought a deck, and it was not very good. The cards were not very good card
Right.
stock. She didn't like the pictures. And it came to me, give her your Nightmare Before Christmas deck. I was like,
Hmm.
oh, really? I like that deck, but you don't use it.
Mm.
She's like, she likes Nightmare Before Christmas. She's got tattoos of it on her. She draws, she does all these things. She lives Tim Burton as well.
Right.
So I told her, I said, meet me at the House of Light. I've got a deck of cards for you. And they work for her.
Good.
So I feel like sometimes you can buy a deck and it's really not for you.
Hmm.
And when the spirit tells you, or you get that nudge to give it to somebody, you better listen and
Right.
just do it. It felt good to give her that deck. I'm really thankful that she's able to work with it, and it's not just sitting on my shelf gathering dust, because I haven't picked it up, but there are certain decks it's just really hard to get the symbolism,
Hmm.
and that takes a lot of practice and playing with them, is to get the symbolism down, so when you look at these cards you know what you're looking at. And a lot
Yeah.
of times it's just calling in your guides. I have a guide that helps me in tarot. She came to me in a meditation,
Hmm.
and I just call upon her, and sometimes she'll come through and help me understand these decks, because it gets a little bit.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It really does take some skill.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. But
Everyday practice.
everyday practice. But when I hear you
Yeah.
talk, Christy, I really get the sense that um, you're a very loving person, and your heart really is to help people. And you're a very giving and generous person. You're very tied into your tribe, very tied into others.
Oh, thank you.
And I think that's just a beautiful thing. And it's just so helpful. Always wanting to serve. And I think that's
Yeah.
a beautiful thing about you.
Oh, thank you. Thank
So,
you.
not to change the subject too much, but you're like this amazing gardener, and and you're an herbalist. So
Yes.
you also are very connected to, well, you talked about when you were young, how you're very connected to nature and that you really
Yeah.
feel like that's where you connect to spirit, like that's the place. Can you elaborate a little
Yes.
bit more on that?
Growing up, I was gardening as a kid. I had a mint garden. I would play in plants. I was a very strange child.
Mhm.
I would make crafts. I mean, who does that? Most of the kids were out cruising the town, and here I am playing in plants.
Mhm.
Um, my dream is when I'm working towards it is to have a nice greenhouse
Mm.
where I can play in my plants and propagate and share the plants. I love to grow herbs and dry them in the fall when I'm harvesting them. All my house smells amazing.
Right.
They're just all hanging in my dining room. I've got all these
Mhm.
bundles everywhere, but it's rewarding just to
Mhm.
walk in the garden and just talk to them, feel them. I make teas with them. I just getting my hands in the dirt means a
Mhm.
lot. I enjoy walking the woods and foraging for mushrooms.
Wow.
Um, it's it's beautiful. You can walk. For me, I can walk into the woods and it's almost like I'm a truffle pig. I can
You can
smell
smell?
them, and
Oh,
I'm like,
that's great.
it's going to be a good mushroom day.
You can smell it. You have these
Yeah,
instincts about it. I mean, you really know your stuff. You're very informed about it. And it's not
I
like
have no
informed.
formal education, so that kind of is daunting. It's like just like I said, a knowing, but I don't have a formal education. I
Well, I
just
will dare say that I think that is far superior to the
mm,
education. You know why? Because you feel it in your body. Like, and
yes,
it doesn't lead you wrong. Whereas the problem with education and information is that it's always shifting. Whereas
yes,
this deep inner knowing that you have about nature, about your herbs, about the plants around you, about the mushrooms, even about the animals that are around your home, like that is something
mhm,
that is like, it's very solid, you know, and it's very
mhm.
connected to the earth. And I think it's just a beautiful thing. I think that kind of wisdom, because that's wisdom, you know, there's a big,
Yeah.
you have an inner wisdom that's obvious to me when I talk to you, and I hear it when you speak about these things, and
No, thank you.
you really do. And
Thank you.
you share these preparations. You have some of those products at the House of Light. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, yes. I smell is a very important thing to me. I think sometimes when we smell a fragrance, it can take us to a certain time and place, whether it's a good place or a bad place.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so for me, aromatherapy is key. I was one of the weird moms at the church daycare because Jessica, when she was a baby, was colicky, and I would rub her down with lavender oil.
Mm.
And they just thought I was crazy. That's not going to help. I was like, it does. You don't understand. Massaging your baby with this lavender oil, calm. I mean, so for me, fragrance was always key. And I got into making incense, and that also led to the herbs. And it was just all about the fragrance. I mean, crushing
Mhm.
up rosemary in your hand and smelling it, it's just inviting. It's invigorating. You get lost and stuck in your head. Smell some rosemary, you know.
Yeah,
Um, I think
changes things, doesn't
fragrance is
it?
very healing. So I do I'm working on my herbal inventory, I guess you could say, to make and harvest and make my own tea blends.
Mhm.
I'm really digging into the different tea blends and what herbs will go together to make a very tasty tea that is healing, or that smells good. Because sometimes some of them you just smell and you're like, oh, that takes me back to this and
Mm.
this, you know. And then when you drink it and you feel the herbs in your body and that warm liquid just nourishing you on a different level,
Mhm.
you know, just the smell and then the ingestion of it. um
Mm.
I'm really starting to really want to branch out and have a tea blend that I can formulate and bring into the house of light where it's there.
Mhm.
I am working on that. It's a hard process to get enough herbs to make that. You have to have a lot.
Yeah. And then once
You
they dry
really
out, they
do.
shrink. So yeah.
They shrink
Yeah.
tremendously. And you're like, where'd they
That
go?
was a lot and now it's a little.
Yeah,
Like cooking
yeah. So
mushrooms or spinach, it just kind of shrinks. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, the
Yeah.
mushrooms do shrink. I've enjoyed, digging into those as well. It's just certain things just fascinate me. And when somebody will talk about it, then I'm like, okay. And I'm researching, and then I'm going out in the woods and
Mm.
looking for this. And, okay, I know it grows around this tree, and then I'll see certain plants in the woods and I have no clue what they are. I don't know their name, but they're fascinating.
Mhm.
Um, and I found a bay laurel tree in my woods. It
Wow.
was crazy. I've walked these woods, never saw it before, and then I went out one day and then there it was just this huge bay laurel bush, and I had walked by it I don't know how many times, I never saw it.
Wow. It was the
And it
right
just
time.
there it was, yeah, it was like, okay, it's time for you to see me now. you
Oh,
know it was really cool.
that's
So
beautiful. That's
yeah,
really
yeah.
beautiful. You are a very
Yeah.
wise woman. Um,
uh, Thank you.
Now you've done candles and things as well, right? Is it candle?
Yes, yeah. Yes. When I was little, I would take my mom's candles that were spent and I would melt them down to make candles for myself when I was growing up.
Wow.
And me and one of my girlfriends would do it. Now I'm looking to expand a little bit more. I don't have quite the system to make a big bulk of candles. I'm
Mhm.
having a hard time meeting the demand at the House of Light. Um, but yes, I am working on growing that business as well, because the candles, it's the warm light.
Mhm.
We're in the darkest times of the year, and so
Yeah.
making candles is a perfect time to do because you're
Mhm.
bringing light into your darkness.
That's right.
So I think now is the perfect time if you want to make a candle, start making candles.
Mhm.
It'll really help with this darkness, this dark time of the year that we're in. We all kind of suffer from seasonal depression because we
Mhm.
want that sunlight and we're not getting it.
Yeah.
Make your own light, make a candle.
You're
Is
so
or just light
masterful.
one. If you can't make it, just light one. There's something
Yeah.
there. And if you want to clear your space and clean your space, light an incense. That smoke will cleanse your space.
Mhm.
You can smudge as well, but there's just so many different ways to cleanse your space. And candles and incense are, I never realized what I was doing when I
Mm.
did those things at first. It's just, I was just drawn to do it. And
Wow.
I've
That's
been doing it for
impressive.
like several years now. So it's fun.
What's your favorite? Like, if you had a favorite scent, what would it be?
I sell it now. It's called Citrus Fig.
Oh.
It takes me back to the first time I was introduced to incense. I went to this lady's shop in North Carolina. She had a massage therapy shop, and in the shop, she had just walls of incense that she made. And so she introduced me to making hand dipped incense. And that smell just takes me back to that time of when I
Mm.
realized that's what I want to do. I want to have a shop where my incense is being sold.
Right.
Um, and so that fragrance right there just takes me to that.
Mm.
I really like them all though.
Do you do you have a favorite herb?
Patchouli. I
Really?
I
Okay.
love patchouli and bergamot.
Okay.
Um, Really intrigued me. I was actually able to procure a patchouli plant. I bought a couple of them, and
Mhm.
this year I was actually able to keep it alive.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and I love it because when it rains,
Mm.
patchouli as a live herb is different than what you smell in the oil. A lot of people are grossed out by the smell of patchouli because they think hippies, and the dirty hippies that covered up
Yes.
their bad BO with patchouli.
Oh gosh.
But I like the smell of patchouli. I don't wear it strongly, but the green herb, when the rain and it's humid in this Georgia weather and
Mhm.
the rain hits it, and you could just sit out on the porch with the rain hitting this patchouli plant that's been heated by the sun. You smell the aroma coming off of it, and it's different than the oil. It's a very earthy smell still, but
It's not as
it just does
concentrated.
something for, yeah, you can
Yeah.
smell the green. It's
Okay.
different than the dried herb and the oil. It really is. It's one of my favorites. And then the bergamot is also the same.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a very earthy smell. Maybe it's because I'm a Pisces, and I'm kind of flighty and I need that grounding.
Well, I don't know if this is something that you dove into, but so are different different oils, are they associated with different signs in the zodiac, would you say?
Yes, different elements.
Okay.
Yes. Some of them are associated with different elements. And that gets another rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just find, and for me, it's not, I haven't even researched it, but certain fragrances will trigger, you just feel it. And
Yeah.
like this fragrance, like the smell of copal
Mm-hmm.
is a good fragrance for me to meditate to. It almost
Mm.
like I can connect to spirit better. And when I researched it, they actually burn it to connect to spirits.
Oh,
I
that's
was like, oh.
interesting.
So I knew that before reading it,
Mm-hmm.
because I can burn copal or sage. I just never really realized what I was doing when I was doing it until I started, well, why? What does this herb do? And then I
Yeah.
realized, oh, you knew this already.
I think your intuition, Christy, is off the charts. Like, it really
Thank you.
is. It really is. And I
Thank
think
you.
that's a great way to navigate life. I mean, and I really honestly believe that most people have an inner knowing they just ignore. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know, and you don't ignore it.
I'm trying not to. I'm learning not to. Rephrase it. I'm learning not to,
Yeah.
because I have shut. I'm sorry, my clock is going off. Hopefully it's not loud.
No, I don't hear it.
Okay. Okay. It's um I'm learning to really connect more with that,
Hmm.
and not be afraid,
Yeah.
because that's been part of my problem, is not having the confidence or the voice to speak what's actually inside of me. And
Hmm.
I think being around people like you and Donna and
Hmm.
all the sisters there at the House of Light
Hmm.
has helped me step into who I really am,
Mm.
and realize that I shouldn't be scared. I
No,
should not be afraid to express, because whether people like me or not, it doesn't matter.
no, it
I'm
doesn't.
who I am.
Matters is that you like you, and we all love
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
um, but yeah, I think that's the thing, right? I mean, this homogenization, or this idea that we should all be the same, is
Yeah,
just so antithetical to creativity and beauty. And
yeah.
I see so much creativity and beauty in you, and I just see it blossoming. And it's a
Thank you.
joy and an honor to really witness. um, I have seen your products are masterful. The things that you do
Thank you.
when you do something, I'm just kind of like, I throw things together, and and it works for me, but other people go, wow, that's a little lopsided. I'm like, well, it's beautiful, it's mine. I mean, like, I am not a master in that.
Oh,
I care to do things with any sort of perfection. I'm much more production oriented. I am creative, but I like lopsided and all over the place and unordered. But I
it's
admire people that can do something in such a perfect, beautiful way. And when I look at the things that you create, I'm like, whoa, that's very talented.
thank you. Thank you.
That's
I
like a
enjoy
lot of
doing
thought.
that.
A lot went into
Yeah.
that. And
Thank you.
it was detailed. And
Thank you.
I admire, my husband's like that too. I admire people that can really master a thing and do it in such a way that it's just looks flawless. And I see that about you.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm not trying for flawless, but I do try to make it look presentable, but I do try.
Yeah. Well, if there are, I don't ever see them. I'm just
Mm,
blown away at the beauty of it,
thank you.
so I'm
Thank you.
very, so when are you at the House of Light? How can people find you?
I'm there on Tuesdays, from 12 to 2. I know it's a short time, but I've been picking my grandchildren up after school. That's kind of important for me to do right now.
Right.
So from 12 to 2 on Tuesdays, I'm there. If people want to book a private session after hours, I am available. Just they can call the House of Light or and get in touch with me through the House of Light.
Hmm.
That would be fine. And then I can book it through with them
Hmm.
and set it up. I don't mind doing, I've done it in the past where it's a group of girls, they're going out for dinner together. It's a girls' night and they all come together and want to do a tarot reading. That's very popular.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't mind doing those. They're really a lot of fun.
Mhm.
And sometimes Kim will join in, and we'll do like a session like where they'll come in and do Lucia Light with Donna.
Oh,
One
wow.
will be doing that. One will be doing a tarot reading with me. And then at the end, we all end with the sound journey with Kim. We did that recently.
Wow.
I left there so dizzy.
You're like high
So
afterwards.
dizzy that
Yeah.
it was beautiful. I was just like,
Wow.
whoa, because that sound journey just relaxed. And after reading cards, and the ladies had gone and had a full massage and everything before they came to us, and they were just like pretty drunk by the time we had to all just kind of sit for a minute.
Yeah,
But it was a really good time. It makes for a really good time. And it's so I don't mind doing those things. It's really a lot of fun.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. So you do
So
some special events, but you're typically there on Tuesdays. It's called
yeah.
Tea and Tarot or
Tea and tarot. Yes, I'll put on a pot of tea, and if you want a cup, I'll make you a cup.
okay.
But usually I'm drinking a cup of tea while I'm there, if I remember to bring it.
That's awesome. So, and that's okay. If it happens, it happens. It's all good.
Yeah.
Um, so do they just contact the House of Light then to schedule an appointment? Okay.
You can schedule appointments. I don't mind walk-ins. If you are a walk-in and I'm with another client, I'll try to get with you as soon as possible. I've had people come in right at 2 o'clock wanting a reading, and that's kind of inconvenient because I have
Yeah.
to be on the other side of it. But usually the readings don't last long. I don't do hour-long readings
Right.
because there's not that much to say in an hour when you're reading somebody. So they usually typically last about 20 minutes or so.
Okay.
Um, and we do provide tissues and paper for you to write down notes. I don't mind people recording if they want to record it to refer back to later, take pictures of the cards that are pulled. Sometimes they're a mess and you can't make sense of them by the time I'm done. But that's what I say, just record it, you
Mhm.
know.
That way you can
But
kind
yeah,
of refer back to it because it is difficult
yeah,
to remember everything. Uh,
it is.
yeah,
It is.
it can be
It
difficult.
is.
So
Yeah.
if they want to get a hold of you, they should contact the House of Light, or is there any other, or is that pretty much the best way to go about
You
it?
can contact the House of Light. I don't mind them messaging me or calling me. I've had a couple of them call me and say, "Hey, are
Okay.
you going to be at the House of Light Tuesday? I've got some free time. Can I pop in?"
Okay.
Yes, they could contact me on my cell phone as well. I don't know if I need to provide that or not
Well, what
here.
I'll do is I'll go ahead and put that in the show notes and
Okay.
along with the link to the House of Light and the phone number there so they can, they
Okay.
can check there first. So
Yeah.
I end my podcast with a
Mhm.
question.
Okay.
And I ask everybody the same question. And it's kind of a silly question because like a lot of us know that time is just kind of like a concept that we create in our minds. It's not, it's not really real
Yeah.
per se. But if you could live at any time in history, when would that be and why?
There's so many time frames I want to jump to. Um, and I think they all have one thing in common. It was a time that the world was changing. We were going
Oh,
from one thing to another. So like the Renaissance, things were changing then. The 20s, things were
mhm,
changing then. So I think the Renaissance and that time when things were simpler, we didn't
mhm,
have all the electronics and the industrialism of the world facing
mhm,
us. simpler times. I really see myself in those times. I can almost see myself in the time of the Vikings,
Wow.
raiding countries, and
Yeah,
living off the land and farming. Um, but yeah, I think the Renaissance would be,
would be that probably out of all of
yeah,
them.
but there's so many that intrigue me, and I feel like I've been there.
Yeah. Well, I think, and I always make this case, or I guess I just that we are energy, and energy is never created nor
Yeah,
destroyed. So it is a good hypothesis that our energy has existed in other timelines. And I don't know, I know that I believe that to be true.
I do
So
too.
yeah. So that's, yeah, and the Renaissance was a time of just massive human evolution in
It
terms
really
of
was.
art and music and
Yeah,
literature and
yeah.
so I think that's amazing. We're in another, we are
Change.
approaching that now, and I have
I
like
know.
and I'm like, did I choose, like, wow, this is quite a time we're living in right now.
Yeah.
So in a sense, we're kind of living in a little bit of a renaissance, or at least something coming up to it. um
Yes. Yes. I
as
think
this
so. I agree. It's kind of, I think about all the timelines that, the Renaissance, the 20s, when it was going from, when they were bringing electricity, and people were
Mhm.
like, I don't want that. I don't want electricity. It's loud. And
Right.
then the 60s, there was a revolution going on, and I'm intrigued with the 60s. And now here we are living it again,
I know.
because things are changing. And it's like, I get to be a part of it again.
Yes.
I feel like I was there before. Now here I am again. And it's wonderful. I
Yeah.
I think that that's a wonderful thing,
What a
to be a part
ride.
of the change.
What a ride. I
Yeah.
know it. I know it. Well, Christy, I really enjoyed this immensely. And everyone, you can find Christy at the House of Light, and I will link to their website in the description of this show, as well as contact information for Christy.
Awesome.
Um, but Christy, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank
It,
you.
it was an honor to talk to you today, and you were a blessing in my life. And
Oh,
hope you have a wonderful rest of the day.
thank you, April. You've been such a blessing as well.
Mm.
I'm so thankful I met you.
Well, we will talk soon, and thanks again.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye, everybody.